Hey guys, what's going on? Kilo here. Basically, I have been off my channel for a little bit, about 2.5 weeks. I've been off since literally Black Ice came out on Rainbow Six, and I cannot stand the way Rainbow Six plays right now. So I apologize for that, plus a little bit of events that have been going on in my life when it comes to the workplace. It's been it's been a pretty busy last 2.5, 3 weeks, guys. So I apologize for not being on here as soon as I could have. But one thing that I did manage to do in the middle of all of what was going on in my personal life, I did manage to play the open beta of The Division. Basically, what I want to do with this video is I want to tell you guys what I think needs to be improved in both the PvE and the PvP leading up to the full version of the game. Because right now, let's just face it, we only have a third of the map, and there have been a lot of changes being made. There was a whole listing of patch notes if you go and you look it up. If you still have the beta downloaded on your stuff, you basically got the whole entire patch notes for your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One, depending on how that works for Xbox One. I don't know because I'm a strictly PlayStation guy and I'm loyal to a fault to Sony. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with PvE and then work my way up to PvP, because there's a lot more going on by what it seems with the PvP. There's a lot of people having huge complaints, so I want to save that as important as the more important topic discussion and get all of the little minor stuff in PvE out of the way, because let's just face it, we all think that the Division is a revolutionary game. If you've been paying attention to it for the last 2 years like I have, I'm very, very avid about this game. I have a lot of hope for what the Division can become. Now, where it stands in PvE right now is basically what you had to do is you had to restart your character. You had to work your way from the ground zero all the way up to level 8 again is the max cap out in PvE. Yeah, level 8. And you had to rebuild your character yet again. I had two of them by the time I was done with the closed beta, and they were both maxed out in PvE. I didn't exactly get the other one maxed out in PvP in the Dark Zone, but the case in point is that in PvE, you had to restart. You got yourself a new mission, opening up the tech tree wing in the BOO, which is the base of operations. And basically what happened with the PP or PvE when it came to actual enemies is that they now spawn more frequently. In relative size of how big the PvE map actually is, I think they need to up that some more. Because when I was walking around here, I would go 15, 20 minutes without running into an NPC. And in this kind of environment, when it's block for block, and it's supposed to be simulating a massacre that happened in a city filled with millions to billions of people, I think that would be a more realistic goal if you redid the counters on spawn times for NPCs and the actual PvE side of it. Because there's not enough things to do. I basically ran through all 20 encounters again in less than 2 hours. And those things are small little missions where you take out 5 guys and then it unlock a key to a room, and there you go, you freed 3 hostages. And you got some Division tech, which at this point is useless because the crafting's been turned off. And that brings me to my next point, the crafting. What does it look like right now? Crafting is pretty much one of the things that they've kept on a very, very tight leash when it came to releasing any type of information about. We don't necessarily know what the Division tech is, how it applies to crafting at this point. We just know that it's there. We know that you can use fabric, tools, different elements if you break down gear that you don't need, and that can go into crafting. But that's kind of common sense as to what it's for. The Division tech is still an unknown thing, and we're still waiting on news from Ubisoft. Most likely we won't get that news, and we'll have to just figure it out as we go along, which is, by what I think, is a good thing to do, keep some, mystery about the game, because right now, here's what Ubisoft's doing. Ubisoft is dropping a lot of trailers about this game in the span of the last week that the open beta hit and the closed beta. So pretty much in the last 30 days, there's been a cinematic trailer, there's been a factions trailer. Now in Europe, there's a 60 FPS trailer for the PC. And there's 2 more scheduled to come out, I think. The actual release day trailer, which isn't going to happen until March 8th. But I think there's one more in between the one that they released this morning and they gave a Twitter feed about. And then after that, there's one more. And then we get the release trailer. So there's a lot of hype going on about this game. And how it's getting hyped up pretty much like Destiny, which kind of makes me sad a little bit. Because let's just face it, Destiny was a huge flop when it came to RPGs. And the good news about that is that when it came to Destiny, there wasn't a closed open beta for the general public. Basically, I did not pre-order Destiny. I was kind of iffy on it. I was not as sure of it as I was with this game. So I didn't get access to the closed beta and all that. But if I would have thought the game was pretty good. But now that game has come out, it's put a big, huge shadow on games that are like this, that function like this, in a unique setting, which is why I'm kind of like, you guys are doing the whole hype up thing. Come on. We've spotted a bunch of things that still need to be proved on in the open beta. Your guys' forums are filled with them. The NPC spawns are atrocious still. Keeping us in the dark about all of the stuff that happens with crafting still, that one I can give them because they still want some anonymity about their game. You can't just give everybody the whole entire game in a series of trailers because that kind of ruins it for everybody who went out and spent $100 like me on the dang season pass, the game, and the collector's edition. Another point with PvE is that right now everybody's under this assumption that enemies should not be as spongy as they are. What the failure that everybody's seeming to get is that this is an RPG at its core, guys. It's meant to be stat-based. That's what it's meant to be. You can't make an RPG game where enemies aren't spongy, because then that takes the whole entire thing out of it. Yes, do they need to get a little bit more creative than dudes with baseball bats and submachine guns trying to kill you? Yes. Which brings me up to another point. Make the bosses unique. I mean, we haven't seen the final game yet, but there's not really too much to bosses on these story missions. Guy on the roof of Madison Square Garden. He's a perfect example. All he does is shoot a machine gun. He's got a damage hit chance increase when he performs his special ability. There's nothing special about that. It just takes a longer amount of time to kill him. It's not interesting. There's nothing that happens. It's just waves of weak NPCs coming at you. You're trying to juggle them. And then you got to worry about this dude sitting on top of Madison Square Garden, and you just have to take down his armor. That's the big deal here when it comes to the actual NPC side and the PvE. Everybody's complaining that the enemies are spongy, but it's an RPG, guys. You guys are going to have to get over that at some point, because this game cannot function with all that it's given you unless it's an RPG. With all the skills that they give you, with all the tech that you can use, with all the abilities that you will have, it's got to be an RPG so that the game is not too easy. But on the flip side of that, the bosses do need to get a tad bit more of a creative touch. I see that this is the first 2 storyline missions in the game. You guys gave us a little preview of what we have to see. But people are going to get really bored with the PvE, just like in Destiny, because the enemies got repetitive. The only difference between the enemies in Destiny and the enemies here, but what we've seen, is that the enemies here are a lot more spongy. At least Bungie came up with a creative concept to some of their raid bosses. I swear to God, if the raid bosses for the raid rumors end up being the same thing they are for the storyline bosses, people are going to put this game down in a heartbeat, and the gaming community is pretty much going to be outraged because this will be the second big, huge hype game in a row in 2 years that will be a complete and utter disappointment from what they've told us. This failure could be a big, huge hit on RPGs on consoles if you think about it in the long term. Which now brings me to the PvP side of it. There's a lot of issues right now with going rogue. And one of the major complaints is that it's too easy to find people, and there's absolutely no way that people can run in the short amount of space that they gave us in the beta. Okay, here's my counter, and people need to listen to this with a grain of salt. Just toss it over your shoulder when you hear this. This is only my opinion, but I think that will improve when we get full access to this big, huge place that we've only seen 2/6 of the Dark Zone. You had 25 people locked in 2 very clustered zones within the Dark Zone. You can't base that. You can't run away in the DZ when the map looks that small. But another complaint though is that when you go rogue, there's not enough reward if you succeed. I do agree with you guys on that one. That is very true. You get a bunch of DZ cred, you get a bunch of DZ XP. There's no interesting loot drop unless you go and you pick up everybody else's drop stuff. But at that point you won, and you're pretty much at that point trying to evac out, and the only place to hide in the open beta that there was this little cubby hole that sat right outside of one of the entrances, and people will just sit in that corner all day just to get out of being in manhunt so that they could get some DZ credit. So you need to give, if you make it out of a manhunt, there needs to be an item drop that is relative to what you just did, because right now as it stands, when you go full out manhunt, you have 300 seconds. You have 300 seconds to survive against, let's just say you're a group of 4, 25. 4 minus 25, you still have 21 people trying to kill you if you're the only guys going rogue in the whole entire server. Because every time that you enter the Dark Zone automatically pairs you up with people of your level in a certain server within your country's servers. So you're going in there with the same skill set. Everything is equal up to that point except gear, obviously, because gear is random drops. But if you're a level 12, you're going to have basically blues or purples at this point. So if things work the same way, you should be able to get a higher reward than that for you to evac out. Another significant complaint is that the extraction zones are becoming the only places where people battle anymore, because when you go manhunt or you go rogue, you automatically go to that corner. Again, I counteract that with how small the map is in the beta. The map is very small, guys, right now. You guys gotta wait. You can't judge being a rogue right now based on what the map looks like now. If you do that now, you're pretty much cutting yourself short right now, because we don't know what the whole entire thing looks like yet. Hell, we don't even know what 4 out of the 6 different parts of the Dart Zone even look like right now. So the map size, I think that once people get adjusted to how big the DZ actually is, I think that more people will get used to the fact of going rogue. But there's also something else that they could improve too. Okay, when you become rogue, you instantly get lit up on the map. No matter where all of the other guys who are just normal, have not gone rogue, who have not taken the risk yet with the gear that they have, you instantly show up on all of their stuff. No matter where you are, you instantly have, everybody has the notification that somebody's gone rogue at some point. What they should do is they should shorten that up to where people within like maybe 100 meters, people within 100 meters can only see this dude, and if you are within that 100-meter radius, then you should automatically know that there's a rogue there. Not the whole entire map knows where you are. That I can't agree with. That needs to definitely be improved. Another improvement that I did notice, though, in the Dark Zone is that NPCs spawn more frequently. It was like the one major complaint that everybody had that the guys for Ubisoft actually fixed. They actually showed us what this game looks like when you have a respawn time on NPCs that's short as hell, and it makes survivability in the DZ more valuable. To me, it makes you think a whole lot more when there's NPCs trying to kill you, and then all of a sudden you get stuck in a firefight where a rogue will come out of nowhere, so you got to make a choice. You either kill the NPCs first and then chase the rogue, or you kill the one man just to save yourself so that you have one less dude to kill or care about, and then you can go on without your day, kill the NPCs, get their drops, because let's just face it, the best drops that are coming out of the Dark Zone now are coming from NPCs. But anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. The open beta was fun. I created 2 characters on it. I hope in the whole game that we get something worthwhile here. And this is Kilo, and I will see y'all later.